A circuit that often offers one of the fastest battlegrounds in the world of motorsport. This is the quick track that Australia has to offer, with a glorious look over the Bass Strait, which separates mainland Australia from Tasmania. This is the circuit here in Victoria, just outside of Cowes, that does every single bit of racing justice proud. Welcome here to Phillip Island and to the 8th round here of the 60 Plus Racing Adventures GT3 series here from this wonderful Phillip Island circuit. My name is Jake Sperry. Along with me for today's action is the flying lion himself, JR Gregory, along for company. And JR, today this is a circuit that is known more for its motorcycle racing than it is its out-and-out racing prowess. It is a pride of Australian circuits and one of the fastest circuits in the world of motorsport.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and looking forward to seeing these GT3 cars out here. And as you said, as this track has aged over the years, we've seen less sports car racing out here, a little more moto racing, but definitely a very, very enjoyable track. If you are an iRacing user and don't have this track, shame on you. You should definitely download it. It is an absolute blast. It is old school, and if you're like me and learned about performance driving out on public roads, it kind of has that feel to it of a country road through the rolling hillsides. And there are some high risk spots here, some very difficult spots that require commitment and precision, and also some traps that we'll be discussing as the race here unfolds. I'm sure a couple of those traps are going to catch a couple of these drivers before the race is over.
Well, let's take a look at where this schedule is. Just the one race live with us here in this season 37, which is here with us at Phillip Island. They started off their season all the way back in 2025 at Willow Springs, a wonderful track which has a lot of similarities actually to this Phillip Island circuit, and they're no stranger to Australian tracks because they have tackled the streets of Adelaide at round 3 on January 2nd. That's a nice way to get in to the new year. After this, they'll have a double header at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca and the Miami International Autodrome before a double British finish to the championship with Brands Hatch and Silverstone to end the calendar out on the 6th of March. But let's talk championship for a moment. John Payne leads by the slender margin of 7 points. Now, John's got 5 wins over the course of this season, JR, but the key here has been he has missed 1 round's worth of racing action. Kevin Burkis' consistency is keeping him in the fight.
Yeah, absolutely, and a couple of drops are going to come into play here down the stretch. I think we have 2 drop weeks available to these drivers, so Payne may not be sweating those that missed race last time, but as the season winds down, it's good to have those drops in your pocket. You never know when disaster is going to strike, and not to jinx anybody, but Phillip Island is definitely a place where big incidents can happen and races can change very, very quickly.
David Plowman third in the championship. Mike Grandy won last time out, and so would be there in 5th position in the championship as things go. But qualifying is currently underway at the moment. They're in fixed weather conditions, and you can't get more baseline than this. It's old school iRacing right now. 71 degrees Fahrenheit track temperature, 2 miles an hour worth of wind, a fixed static clock at 8:30 in the morning here on the 15th of November in sim date. So this is about as, I would say, as calm as it gets for racing conditions. John Payne currently out there trying to run through, and he might like a nice beverage after this is done. I think he's eyeing up a youngling.
Oh my goodness, too right, and you are too right as well about those track conditions. I have competed out here on Phillip Island when the conditions are far less friendly than this. The track can be roasting hot, and you saw from that scenic overhead shot, we're right next to the ocean here, and the humidity can be quite high here as well. Both of those things making the track super greasy, but very, very friendly conditions here. The weather is fixed, and fixed setups as well. So these drivers don't have to do a lot of race engineering. They can just pick their favorite GT3 car, show up and drive, and really fantastic series here with the 60 Plus Group 1 of a couple of series that they run throughout the year.
Lovely designed old school Rothmans McLaren there of Ian Wilson, who now looks to try and get this lap sorted. The Canadian here, knowing that every single lap is going to count because they've only got 2 of them to get themselves up to the pointy end of this field. Bergqvist is currently the fastest at this stage on a 1:27.2. Bob Cohen is only 700ths back of that, with Richard McClure third. Doug Beasley up to 4th place then with a 27.7 on that second lap, and it is going to take a little while for the tyres to get up to temperature. It takes normally about 2 to 3 laps before you've got full confidence there, so those second laps are going to be critical compared to the first as they look over the top with Wilson here at Lukey Heights. What a big corner, down on the brakes into MG.
Yeah, and as you were talking there, our timing tower lighting up like a Christmas tree right now as those second laps are being recorded. People are shooting up in the standings, and just as I say that, John Payne puts himself on the pole with a 1:26.7. You see Hellstrom jumping up there as well, and pretty tight spread up top. I like to look at about a 1-second bracket during qualifying, and right now that 1-second bracket stretches around P1 to P14, cut off there at Todd Scholl. So these drivers are well prepared for this. There's going to be some tight competition out here today, and we should see some typically great racing here at Phillip Island.
1:29.3 is David Bradley's time. Michael Price will join that group with a 27.6 to go to 10th place as he sets up with that Porsche. TM Walters then looking to try and get a very nice Miami 5.0 style of livery out there at the moment, charging over towards the line. It looks like a shirt that Wayne Mardle would have worn in the darts back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Walters 28.9, good enough for 29th position out there on the grid. And just looking around, I think everybody who is out there right now with 3.5 minutes to go in qualifying have in fact got their laps done, with the exception of the Liquid Death McLaren of Frank Butler. The 852 will have 2 attempts to go and get the car working as is necessary. And these corners around Phillip Island, long and parabolic through the southern loop over towards turn 4 like Jack Miller, turn 6 at Siberia, Lukey Heights in the final couple of corners. It's not tight and condensed hairpins, it's long, and it waits for the tyres to grip up through the middle before you can plant the foot on the throttle again.
Yeah, patience, absolutely a critical thing here at Phillip Island, and that can kind of bring tire wear into it as well. If you've got experience in these GT3s, you know that the way to save those fronts from getting overworn and losing your turn in is trail braking, and not all the corners out here are amenable to that. Those long sweepers that you mentioned, you just kind of have to ride that understeer, and that will definitely grind down those fronts over the course of the race, and you're going to need those down the stretch, especially spots like right here, turn 10. We're going to see some contested entries there, perhaps some incidents there. That's one of those traps I was talking about. If there's a gap there in front of you, so tempting to stuff it in there, but can result in disaster as you're braking in a very difficult downhill section. So it'll be interesting to see how these drivers tackle that one.
Yes, so it's going to be all about who can manage in conditions like this. Frank Butler back into pits then. Looks like that this is not going to be offering too much in favour of what is wanted from a qualifying perspective. Not always the end of the world to go to the outside, and Pierre will hope to not be his namesake today in the number 71. He does not want to bin it.
Oh my goodness, I'm just going to note that down, and as a potential curse here down the stretch should Pierre meet the barriers out here. Yeah, really looking forward to this Phillip Island circuit, and as we get going, especially at the start here, I'd suggest paying attention to turn 1 here, doing corner as it flows into turn 2. Great place for high speed contested entries, great place to test your bravery, and if you want to get JR's merit badge here at Phillip Island, you will overcome the inside defense into turn 1 with an outside move there that gives you the inside setup into turn 2. So be keeping an eye on these drivers, see if anybody can pull that one off for me today.
Well, that we will see after 40 seconds left. The qualifying will run itself down to 0, and 40 minutes worth of racing action will bring itself up onto the clock. The grid looks as follows. Your championship leader, John Payne, on pole position, nearly a quarter of a second clear of the number 12, Mike Grandy, who won last time out. Richard McClure will line up third alongside second in the championship, Kevin Berquist, with Bob Cohen, who's third in the championship, starting fifth, and Peter Hallstrom there in P6. Steve O'Malley will be going in seventh, with Remigio de Pasqua then for the Italian 8th place in the Porsche. Then it's Mike Walters in 9th, and Michael Price rounding out your top 10. 6 rows will find themselves then with Doug Beasley and David Plowman almost a second off the pace. He'll need to find some progress during this race, with Tom DeSelms in 13th and Roger Janssen then in P14. Row 8 will see Todd Scholl, who is still within that 1 second margin, and just outside of that, Franz Josef Stum there in 16th. Franco Scuri and Stefano Carmazzi then make it an all-Italian 9th row of the grid. Ian Wilson is then 19th, with Roberto Catalano making up the top 20, and Gianni Raspaldo is 21st and hoping not to share a barrier with anyone, but will certainly be sharing a good run in the Coca-Cola car. JC Hay, 22nd. Greg Gilman and James Shin are on row 12. You then got Earl Setzer and Richard Coulomb in the 13th row, with Jeff Browning and Pierre Binet then 27th and 28th. Jerry Kerr and TM Walters make up the 30, and the last car out there that sets a qualifying time was David Bradley's number 72 machine out then, as they look to get themselves set up ready for racing. As we are in GT3 spec here today, it is not a standing start. That would be far too cruel for them, so they will ultimately decide to go over to a rolling start, and they'll get the full lap behind the Porsche iRacing first safety car to get themselves into position. A range of different cars available. We have seen some of the Porsches, which are most used out there, a couple of Ferraris, a lot of McLarens out there as well, but critically, you look around, Mike Walters in 9th in the Acura, you don't see that too much, but then you've got a Corvette for Steve O'Malley, and also for Bob Cohen and Mike Grandy. So the Corvette getting a lot of love today.
Yeah, and that is one of the great things about GT3 racing, the wide variety of cars out here. We've got a flat 6, twin turbo, V6, couple of V8s, and even a V10 available to these drivers, and no penalty for switching up cars in 60-plus racing adventures. So it's fun to get out there, run your whole stable around the track, and decide which one that you want to drive. And speaking of the league, just a quick word about them as we watch our formation lap. 60-plus racing adventures started in 2016 in order to provide first-class competition in a friendly and respectful environment. Drivers 60 and over, approaching now its 10th year anniversary, boasts drivers from all over the world, offering many disciplines, open wheelers from NXT, NASCAR trucks, and ARCA stock cars, as well as the GT3s you're seeing here. So if you're 60 or turning 60 soon and want to check out the league, go ahead and stop by their website. Oh my goodness. And that is something that you do not want to see. That website is 60plusracing.com, but Richard LeClure, oh my goodness, has become that guy and looped it on the warm-up lap. What a bummer.
Well, you're just trying to get some temperature into the tyres. He was trying to stamp on the throttle off the exit of Jungle Jack Miller's corner, and that's how quickly he turns around. Now, he has to get himself back up to speed and rejoin his place. I don't know whether it is going to cause any troubles on the formation of this, but it's so easily done. Look, he just stamps the throttle down, on the rears just decide, no, they don't want to play ball.
Yeah, and McClure doing a good job there. He was facing backwards for a second, quickly got out of the way so that his mistake wouldn't impact anybody else. So a tip of the hat to him for how he handled that. But yeah, it's kind of debatable in my mind how much heat you really are able to generate by weaving in one lap on a cold track like this. But people have a tendency to want to do it anyway, and it is a double-edged sword, as you saw there.
Yep, in goes the pace car. Now, there is one mandatory stop here in this race, and it is a very narrow pit lane, so keep that in mind. John Payne with control of this field. Mike Grandy will be the one to follow, and that's an early jump by John, and he has got the march on everybody else. Green flag in the air, and round 8 of the championship brings itself to fruition as we start now. It's McClure third, it's Berquist fourth, Cohen and then Hallstrom make your top 5 as they comfortably run into turn 1 without any worries then through the Mick Doohan. Right now the Southern Loop left follows on by comparison, and how do you hold your ground through these corners and give yourself as much of a chance at the start of this race? It's comfortable out there off of the get-go, and Grandy will know, being second, that he's just got to try and follow the coattails for as long as possible. 1 car, 2 cars in the wall back there. I think JC Hay is one of them.
Oh my goodness, and I recall a mention of the barriers when you were going through the grid and discussing that. Coca-Cola livery 992 GT3, a couple cars in the wall there. Looks like potentially a little bit of damage right there. I was just about to compliment the field on a very tidy start right here. Low risk and, getting nose to tail early, but then we had that little incident. Car into the barrier, looked like a hard hit there as well.
Well, we can see Hay looking very sketchy on the brakes, trying to get underneath Stefano Carmazzi then in that Ferrari, and then just the understeer out of that section. And do they leave enough for... Oh, now Carmazzi there had a bit of room there on the outside. It's a hefty hit into the bank that's there, and it looks like Beasley in trouble because he's gone spinning as well out there going through the final section of circuit out of turn 11. So another spin there, but really there for JC Hay, there needs to be room. And look at that, cold tyres lap 1 in the McLaren, it's prone to it.
Yeah, and go ahead and get on Wikipedia and look up low polar moment of inertia, and that's what makes those mid-engine cars a handful at any track, particularly here at Phillip Island, and as Jake said, particularly on cold tires. Takes a couple laps for these tires to hit the sweet spot. They're full of fuel, and something to keep in mind in the early going, and it's you have to overcome the temptation to make something happen when traffic is thick and you have an opportunity. You have to balance that against keeping it on the track and losing everything that you might have gained, and you saw it right there.
Opportunity knocks when drivers have themselves every chance to throw themselves at it, so they know that if there are mistakes out there, someone's going to have to profiteer off of it. That's just the nature of racing as they go. It's currently your championship leader, John Payne, in the lead. He's almost broken the second here to Mike Grandy. He's holding back McClure, Berquist and Cohen in that train. The second pack currently with the Swede Hallstrom has O'Malley, De Pasqua, Walters as that next group, and that's a lovely Leighton House livery there on that Steve O'Malley car. And we look a little bit back then to Mike Walters, who is the teammate, of course, running there in the Son of a Bro Racing car out there, that Acura. He is that teammate of TM Walters, who's up 4 spots in 26. So for the moment, they're quite happy with the work they're doing. You can't miss him. It says Mike on the banner, so we know where Mike is on any given point.
Yeah, you always got to know where Mike is, and there's a look at one of my favorite liveries, old school, Flying Lizard racing there, Michael Price in that beautiful 992 GT3, and he has got David Plowman all over him. That gap down to about 2/10, and one of the tricks around here, you keep that gap down. And a little peek down. Plowman wanting to remind Price that he's back there. Would have been surprised to see a move, but we may see some dives there before this one was over. But yeah, Plowman's going to want to hang tight there, not let that gap expand too much, and maybe take advantage of the slipstream on the long pit straight here at Phillip Island.
Yeah, this is going to be a very firm start to how they want to race this. Plowman knowing that he wants to get up into that top 10, and he will want to get in there quickly. Big wide defensive line then by Michael Price, taking the middle of the road, which sometimes is the path of least resistance around here. Sometimes you don't need to take the out to into out line, and that can make all the world's worth of difference. Tom DeSelm has eyes behind him because Todd Scholl is wanting a way up to P12 to go and gain that place. And already you can see here how much weaving they have to do along the Gardner Straight to go and keep themselves in mind. Now this is Pierre Binet, then in the number 71, up over the top of Lukey Heights, catches a tank slapper, and I can't help but notice actually how much was missing off that rear. The panel completely gone already for Binet, so he's obviously had a moment somewhere earlier in the lap.
Yeah, it looks like he did, and maybe something happened during this start that we didn't catch when traffic was thick, but yeah, shedding body panels is not going to help his progress down that long pit straight. Taking a look at Hallstrom now, got Steve O'Malley all over him, and see if O'Malley can put use to the V8 front of that beautiful C8 GT3 as we make our way through the center section here.
Yeah, we call this the hay shed, this small flick to the right, named mainly because there is a hay shed down on the inside of that section, up over the top of Lukey Heights, the highest section of this circuit. It's one of the places where Vincenzo Iannone, when the MotoGP race was going on, he actually head-butted a seagull as he went through in what was a big pack race. And I can always remember what Keith Ewan said, he nutted a seagull out there as he went on through. So he's very much been in a place where that is a dangerous corner for a number of different reasons. Rogue seagulls, fortunately, unable to be found here on iRacing.
Well, yeah, give it time. You know, the developers always listen to our broadcast here on RaceSpot for ideas, and we may be seeing that Rogue Seagull in the future. And here is a look at Binet maybe losing that rear panel and getting some help. Oh, yeah, he goes avoidant there, a little clog. That looked like turn 4, and the car behind unable to avoid him, and there goes that rear body work off of that McLaren. So, and as we said, not going to be helpful for him down the straight. Looks like DeSelms had an incident. DeSelms off, dropping down the timing tower. That's going to cost him as he falls down to P22, and looks like Browning wants a piece of him too, as the opportunity knocks, as mistakes are inevitably happening here at Phillip Island.
Yeah, on the brakes. Oh, hello. Yes, it says on the side. That's why you had contact. Todd Scholl down the inside, just slightly misjudging there. The move to the inside to get that sorted. Went for the late lunge down at that section, get it done. So he's focused now with the 14 in P14 of Franco Scurri. But you've got to remember when you're making moves like this is the 60-plus league, and not to put any sort of dampener on these drivers and how they're going. Reaction time. You do lose a step or two the older that you get, so it is tougher when you get yourself into a position to get yourself out of it again.
You know, I mentioned that I've run with this league before. I'm not really sure how to respond to your casting aspersions upon my excellent reaction time, but in any event, point made, and we'll move on as we watch
JR, you're a specimen.
As we watch Scurri follow Franz Stum into that turn 1, and there is a move on the outside of turn 2. I've been wanting to see some action here. They've been pretty well behaved up here up until this point, but at some point down the stretch when the juices start flowing, we're going to see side-by-side contested entries. Oh, and look at that move by Plowman on the inside of Price. Very, very nicely done, and some clean, respectful driving by both of those drivers.
Well, Price is struggling with front-end grip because he ran straight up the back, then Mike Walters, and suddenly they're both going to be limping around trying to get themselves sorted. Look at the front, completely caved in for Michael Price, and they're both going to go by then. So there goes Franz Josef Sturm without any argument at all. Franco Scurri's going to follow. Without that front grip from the splitter, you're just going to be pretty much a sitting duck, and another 3 go by. Catalano and Scurri both find a way to jump on through.
Yeah, that is going to hurt, and I'm not recalling what the faster pair situation is here. I don't think there are faster pairs available. However, they
are unlimited.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, they should pop in. The pit window opened on lap 1, so there's limited fuel off of the start, but you can fill as much as you want. So if you find yourself in a jam, find yourself with damage, or find yourself after poor qualifying at the back of the grid, you can definitely get an undercut done here from the very first lap. And I'm kind of surprised with that in mind that we haven't seen more takers on that, Jake.
Kevin Bergqvist is eyeing up a move, and this one might be for third as we focus a little bit further down. There is Bergqvist trying to get that angle on Richard McClure. McClure obviously has the tyres warmed up, some would argue more than others after his spin on the formation lap, but he's done very well to hold that there through Jack Miller out of Siberia corner, because it's the furthest place on the circuit anywhere from civilization, quote-unquote pit lane. And for the moment, McClure very comfortable in the Ferrari right now, dealing with the Crikey Esports car behind the Kevin Bergqvist, also a Ferrari out there at this point. Now, why are drivers pivoting towards that Ferrari? It's the sort of car that week in, week out, you look at and go, it suits certain tracks, but not others. Yeah, and I don't have a lot of seat time in that one, and I wish I could provide some more insight into that. I'm a 911 guy by trade, and that is actually the only GT3 car that I have, but certainly the rotation of that Ferrari pretty good around here on some of the medium to low speed stuff that you get out here at Phillip Island. And a little peak there. That is O'Malley sniffing around behind Hallstrom. I'm still waiting to see somebody attempt to move there down the inside of turn one, but you know, that may be a little bit of practice, a little bit of head games showing on that inside mirror to make that driver think they have to defend turn one the next time around. On the bottom right of your screen, that's Kenneth Dummer, who is down in the pits. And actually, sorry, it's Roger Janssen as well that we're keeping an eye out on with two. So it might be that Janssen is down in the lane as well. There is Kenneth Dummer just leaving the pits, along with Roger Janssen, who will be now looking to get out and away. Now, the difference between coming in early and coming in late, obviously, if you've only got the one stop, you probably want to run the tank out as dry as you possibly can. That keeps the car basically as light as you possibly can, but clean air is also going to play a big factor. Michael Price down in the lanes. We focus here with Hallstrom at the moment, getting a little bit lonelier now. Steve O'Malley just cresting away about a second. He's got Remigio de Pasqua for company right now, who started 8th, who is 8th. Your top 8 currently haven't changed a single position out there over the first 12 minutes of this race. Yeah, very interesting. They had a nice long practice session out here. They practiced together during the week, so they definitely put their preparation in, particularly when they know that they're going to be appearing here on RaceSpotTV. So you're seeing some good preparation out here, some good consistency. And remember when we looked at those qualifying times, I think at the end of qualifying session, we ended up with 15 or 16 of these cars within 1 second in their qualifying time. So these folks came ready to party here today, and definitely going to be difficult to get moves done in this competitive field. Yeah, so how will this field play out after stops? That is the one thing that they'll be looking at and trying to worry about next, as the three of them work then through into Siberia corner. This long left-hander, 112 kilometers an hour, over to 150 on the exit, under the 4 and 20 signage, which is a pie manufacturing company out there, 4 and 20, named after the wonderful nursery rhyme of Sing a Song of Sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie. But for the moment, it seems that there's a lot trying to be cooked up at the moment in this race, and one thing that is being cooked up right now is a tiny bit of traffic for your leaders. Yeah, back markers are going to get involved here fairly soon. A couple people trying that undercut. Looks like I've got about 7 cars that have taken their pit stop so far. Looks like the fuel stop about 11 or 12 seconds to get the splash that they need to get across the line here. So the leaders are going to be encountering some of these folks that have stopped for fuel or stopped for repairs, and that may be what the likes of Grandy, McClure, and Bergqvist need to get up to John Payne. John Payne has stretched that gap to 1.3 seconds. He's outside of draft range right now, and really difficulties in getting through traffic are going to be the only thing that can push him back into the grips of Grandy. Yeah, and so Grandy having a lot of trouble there with JC Hay, who was blinking about a lot. Pierre Bennett was also off the road at turn 1, so we'll take a little look at this then. Main straight, and just overcooking it, it looks like, on the brakes into turn 2. So turn 1 is normally flat, if not a slight light lift. As you go through, you can see just slightly dabbing on the brakes, but then you hit turn 2 and you've got to do the majority of the work to scrub the speed, and if you don't manage it, Well, you're off the island, and around this place here, that gravel, it stings because you're going to drag it all back on. You can see actually how much of it has been deposited in the grass there. Frank Butler, I think, also running into troubles in the 852. Is it going to be the same story? Absolutely.
Yeah, and Pierre did not quite bin it right there, but yeah, absolutely, that is one of the traps out here. Oh, and another taker, a sympathetic trip through the kitty litter right there. But yeah, that's one of the traps out here, Jake. You get a really good run through turn one, you're feeling great about that, but a good run through turn one means your entry speed to turn two is higher. You got to move that brake marker back, and if you don't, you visit the kitty litter on the outside. Thankfully, a little kinder. The friction of the grass than it used to be in the old days, so they're able to keep it out of the barrier, but huge loss of time and dragging that debris back onto the track, as you said.
Steve O'Malley then looking at Peter Hallström, the Swede in front. Remigio de Pasqua is then just watching this one, and there's a car off the road in front of them, and that's Bob Cohen, who's gone a mile straight on, and that's going to be a place change, potentially with Hallström. They're going to have to fight over to Siberia, and there's no pace then for Bob Cohen, so he's gone sailing and missing his braking point all on his lonesome at Jack Miller corner turn 4, and so it will pay the price with a move change inside your top 8.
Yeah, and we'll take another look here at Cone, and whoop! Yeah, just overshoots, overcooks that entry to turn 4. The escape road probably helped him a little bit there, but still cost him a couple positions, now sitting in P6, and has Steve O'Malley to deal with as he tries to work the dirt off of those hot race tires.
Yep, needs to get into position, but you do scrub a little going through these final 2 corners. That is turns 11 and 12. Out there on circuit, and leaving the pits there is the number 62 of Michael Price, trying to get some damage repair done out there on that car at this moment. But it's all about finding yourself steady. Coulomb, for example, is one that is looking around at places because he's in a big scrap with Gianni Rispaldo further down the order. Oh, and this might be the chance that you're looking for to get the clearance on Bob Cohen, who understeered there through the southern loop, and another place goes, and a good pass up there for Steve O'Malley. He might be followed here by Remigio de Pasqua, side by side through towards Casey Stoner corner. Not quite, as now here comes the look over to the inside, the lunge down the inside. No, I'm going to have to open the steering and let him go through. That is called picking a pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. That just a sliver of light right there. You see that 911 getting stuff down the inside, and my gosh, 22 minutes. Or we're about at the halfway point, and I told you that tire wear, particularly fronts, could be problematic out here. And Jake, I'm already seeing some cars unable to turn in, washing out on entry for folks who aren't adjusting their brake bias and who aren't trail braking enough out here. The Phillip Island will eat those fronts and do it in a hurry. And here we go, that battle for third heating up. That is McClure against Bergquist. And I've been waiting for that side-by-side entry into turn 1, and not quite, as the back car there thinking better of a side-by-side entry right there and wants to save that fight for another day.
Well, Richard McClure was over the radio saying, look, it's yours, take it. And so it's a case of, yes, I will, says Kevin Bergquist, who is trying to hunt down the leading 2 of Grandy and Payne. Payne now 2 seconds to the good. Franco Scurry in the pits, and car off there wide is going to be JC Hay, as everyone is going to now try and work out where to be. 4-car scrap right now with Bob Cohen on the back of this here. Plowman then watches De Pasqua and Steve O'Malley. O'Malley middle of the road trying to defend it. Everyone tries to navigate to the inside. That's too deep. Both getting it wrong, and following in the brake marks is Plowman. Bob Cohen, 3 for the price of 1. What an offer.
My goodness, and De Pasqua there, pretty optimistic when Remigio sees this sliver of light. He's stuffing that 911 down there. You saw him try it right there into turn 4, and the wheels fell off for him and the driver he was trying to pass. Unfortunate there, as a couple of cars plummeting down the order. That put De Pasqua all the way down into P12 when he had something going there for sure, Jake.
Yeah, he's just completely missed his marker. It's so easily done. They were fighting to be, oh, I can be the latest on the brakes down the inside. They all played the game of chicken like they were James Dean, and all three of them ended up going off the cliff, so to speak there. So 1, 2, 3, all find themselves there. That secondary tap as well wouldn't have been appreciated there by Plowman. In comes Steve O'Malley, by the way, to make his pit stop, so that's going to be a critical stop to keep in mind. But everybody now is getting the sense of this race is going to be tough. You have done half of the race, you've got another half to go. That's Jeff Browning. Oh, into the grass to try and get around, and then into the grass the other way. Slow down, Richard. Whoa, that could have been dramatic even further. McClure with nowhere to go had to take to the grass, taking avoiding action.
Holy cow. And Roberto, I don't usually make direct requests, but I would love to see a replay of that one from the cockpit view. That was hairy and absolutely could have been a disaster, but we ended up splitting the difference right there instead of taking one of those cars out. Oh my goodness, wild stuff right there. And here's the replay.
So, firstly, Bergquist has got to go to the inside. Browning doesn't know which way to go. Unpredictable. And so that puts McClure out on the grass. He can't hit the brakes in time. And very lucky is Kevin Bergquist that he doesn't have the front nose of his car. They're absolutely caved in and demolished from right suspension over to left. Now, we've got cars in the pits like Steve O'Malley. Now, what happens to Steve here as he leaves the pits? Everything all okay by the looks of it. McClure now has dropped 4 seconds, nearly 5 seconds back of Bergquist, who's 3 seconds back of Grandy, who's 3 seconds back of John Payne. Now, as they go through, there is still a lot to figure out because Sturm still has the likes of Plowman and now Roberto Catalano, who is sat there quite patiently behind, hoping that his place is going to come up into sunshine. He's running around in the BMW, and we haven't seen many of those today.
Yeah, and I think a storm of pit stops here right around the corner. Almost half the field has come in already. We might be reaching the end of this initial fuel load for the leaders. And I'm going to be keeping an eye, Jake, on that pit exit. Those of you with a sharp eye will note that there are 2 paths back onto the track leading out of the pits right here. iRacing will actually allow you to use either one. I don't know if the league here has an agreement on which one they're going to be utilizing here in this race, but things could get a little bit messy if there's a lot of traffic coming out of the pits onto that high-speed pit straight, as we watch Tom DeSelms in a replay there, over-rotating a little bit into the grass, keeps it together there. And maybe should have just gotten on the pit road right there if he hadn't been down pit lane yet. But you see Tom trying to blend himself back into action without affecting anybody else's race.
Yeah, very tough to do and well blended there by DeSelms. Would have had a bit of floor damage as well by jumping over that little jump down. Although this is as green as grass can be on the inside, you do see sometimes how tough it can be. Richard McClure then becomes the first of your leaders to come down in and make a pit stop. So we'll see what will happen here from the number 84 car at the moment in the Ferrari making that stop, and we'll need to go and get this one sorted. Now, critically, you see no jumping up on the jacks. This looks like it's fuel only. The tyres, of course, will be able to last the distance out there in this race. They will just cool off a bit as they go through, so it's only a requirement for fuel to get yourself back and away. Sturm and Plowman then continuing on the battle of Germany versus Canada out there at this moment in time, and really hoping that the move is going to be there. It's not for Plowman at the moment, so he's going to have to be a little bit more patient to try and find that move, and still you start wondering whether it might be more beneficial to come in, get a couple laps of clean air to really attack and try and force the pace out there of Sturm, or whether being about a second and a bit behind Todd Scholl is the reason why they're staying a bit longer.
Yeah, and this front group probably going to hang together and stay out as long as possible. We did see one of the front runners pitting, but the rest of them looks like up to P15 are still running that tank dry. And as I said, that is going to lead to a potential storm in the pits. And when that kind of mainstream pit sequence starts, it'll be interesting to see how everybody gets in and out of that. And JC Hay in that Coca-Cola machine is going to have a big hit race ender right there for Hay. And that car, Jake, is going on the flatbed.
It is, and I know you've certainly had a wince and a twitch at that, knowing it's one of your beloved Porsches that has found itself into the barriers like that. But we now have a sizable amount of drivers in. Bob Cohen, Todd Scholl, Franz Josef Sturm, all making that call. McClure will come out a mile ahead then of Bob Cohen, who has just left pit lane. And there's the merge right now. It forces Earl Setzer to go all the way out to the right-hand side. We just missed it out there in the angle that we've got, but forcing all the way to the right-hand side to try and get that clearance. James Shin down then into the pits. Very early box there by comparison, but you've got to really be careful about that rejoin. The long rejoin is the safer rejoin, but it's not the quickest. The quickest is just straight right, out onto circuit, attack turn one.
Yeah, and tip of the hat to Catalano in that BMW M4 GT3. Not a lot of those out here. It's one of the older GT3 cars right now, probably in need of an update. But Catalano wheeling that thing right now, has it running in P6. And, I misspoke. I do own this car as well, actually, Jake. And my experience with this one is lots of V8 grunt, lots of power, but very, very hard on the tires. So we'll be keeping an eye on Catalano to see if that car stays clean for the remaining time. 14 minutes remaining in this one.
In the pits goes David Plowman, and he did let Catalano know, I am coming down into the lane this time by. So let's not do anything funny here. We know what we need to do, and we know how aggressive we need to be out there over the course of this lap. So that's going to be very critical. There has been a big smash up actually down at turn one. I haven't been able to quite catch who it was who was caught up in that then over to the right hand side, but Plowman leaving the pit, and he's going to be ending up behind Todd Scholl, and by a fair margin, because you're looking at where you need to be out the pits. You've got to be at least car ahead by about 5 car lengths if you want to have any side-by-side into turn one. That's the necessity that's needed by those out there at the moment, as your race leader, John Payne, has just hit pits.
Yeah, Payne coming in, and we'll see who follows. Right now, the top 8 cars have not taken their pits, but here comes, looks like Grandy coming in behind. We'll see if, looks like Bergquist will keep going. And Hallstrom, Catalano, and Walters as well may continue here. So our leader, our top 3 cars now coming in for fuel, and see what happens with them coming out of the pits. Crunch time right now, these pit stops can be so critical. They can really determine the outcome of the race. And there we go. There goes Payne. Had a pretty quick stop there, 11.8 seconds. So between 11 and 12 seconds is the ideal stationary time for the fuel load that these cars need. And here we go.
Yep, so Mike Grandy now has to chase, but he's got to chase over 5.5, 6 seconds now in this one, and that is going to be nightmarish to try and get down. John Payne has just been too good here today, quote unquote. He's been the pain in everyone's side.
Yeah, and Grandy a little slow there, might have overfueled. Grandy showing almost 14 seconds stationary. That is 2 seconds off of Payne, and with only 12 minutes remaining, those 2 seconds are gonna hurt Mike Grandy's chances a great deal here.
Yes, so there's a lot to deal with here. Only Kevin Bergquist then yet to stop out of the leaders, and he's only making his way through. Bob Cohen now starting to drop a little bit then, as Hallstrom is there with the likes of Todd Scholl getting the clearance necessary. So I wonder whether that's just wide then through turn 2 at the Southern Loop that's done it, and it's getting busy in the group now, because that's David Plowman trying to get by through. You then got Franco Scuri who is there, and a bit of a gap over to Steve O'Malley, and look at the flick of flame coming out of that McLaren 720 that tries to work itself through. Struggling there for grip a bit. Then on the exit, they've got a slow car on the right-hand side. That's Frank Butler letting them go through the hay shed here. Plowman under pressure, but then from Franco Scuri, as that's the difference. Either side of the circuit here, leaders compared to others.
Yeah, and so tough, that slow traffic, and I know folks are trying to keep out of the way, but a car that far off pace on the inside line coming over that blind hill, you could be trying to move right there and get a nasty surprise. So pro tip, kids, stay on the normal line, breathe the throttle, but don't do anything unexpected, or disaster could have stricken there very easily.
It very much could do, but now here comes the line of trying to get it done. Scholl, this is for 6th position against Peter Hallström at this moment, and Hallström has done a good job of holding defence at the moment. They're only a couple seconds off of Roberto Catalano, who has jumped them in the stop, which is critical for the number 15 Italian there in the BMW. He's getting everything he wants out of it at the moment. Hallström then with very good drive then by comparison at Ferrari compared to McLaren, so that is enough then to get the clearance factor in. Franz Josef Sturm is in for a second stop, which is not scheduled, I would look at there for the number 34, but with now eyeing up 1/4 of this race left to go. You made your bed, now you got to go lie in it, get the result that you're clamoring for.
Yeah, too right. And Scholl feeling a little bit frustrated right here. His fast lap about 2 or 3 tenths quicker than Hallström, but Hallström beat him in the pits by about 1.5 seconds. So Scholl may have overfueled just a bit here, and now is going to have to get through a just slightly slower car if he wants to continue fighting his way up the rankings here, and only 10 minutes remaining. So pit stop so critical in this race. We've seen a couple drivers get bitten a little bit here, and Scholl has added his name to that list.
Yeah, so Todd Scholl back there in 7th, and he's actually dealing with Bob Cohen there in 8th, the 35 against the 32. So it's not a case of you can sit back and relax if you're in this group 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. Everyone is now looking at the 1 position more that they can pick up out there in a group like this. You'll have scraps of 2 here and there at this point in time, but if you're trying to gather it back, Bob Cohen -3 for this one. Roberto Catalano, get this, 15 places gained at the moment in this race. Franco Scuri there in the background trying to get to +8, getting side by side. And in fact, he's got side by side. David Plowman's just let him have it.
Wow, and a definite tip of the hat to Catalano. We were talking about him before. One of the few BMWs out there, and when you say hard charger, 15 positions is no joke around here at Phillip Island. And speaking of no joke, look up front. John Payne has stretched that gap to almost 7 seconds, a gaudy 7 seconds. So not only is he fast, he got some more work done in the pits and has a very comfortable lead with 8 minutes remaining.
Yeah, so this is just keep it on the island. This is a sort of track where you can lose 6-7 seconds by dropping it off the road, because a lot of the area around this place, not just when you go off the road, actually points downhill. So you find you're off and you're carrying a lot of speed and it's going downhill, so it's tougher to stop. Very similar to the likes of, say, a VIR, for example, which does exactly the same trick and makes life doubly difficult to get back out. This is Kenneth Dummer, who gets himself side by side with that number 67 car. Oh, TM Waters there getting involved. Tim, that's not the way you want to get it done, and that will be a massive shunt into the barriers for Kenneth, and his day pretty much written off on that hit.
Wow, tough stuff there, and deciding who did what when is over my pay grade right here, but I guess worthy of noting, no stewarding here, so kind of gentleman's league with where we have incidents like that and move on. But I'm sure Dummer, as he sits there on the flatbed, is wondering whether that was his fault or his competitors, if there's something that he could have done different. Definitely got turned with some contact on the rear quarter panel of that car, and his race unfortunately over and so close to the end. These crashes down the stretch with 5 minutes left are some of the most painful ones to get involved in.
You put all that time and effort in, you look for your return on investment, and it ends up being a collapse out there. So you can't really do too much in that situation. You just have to basically take your medicine at that point. But they set themselves up then inside 7 minutes to go. This group of 4 at the moment, which reads BMW, Ferrari, McLaren, Corvette. 4 manufacturers, 4 places inside this top 8. I would say beautiful job, well done in terms of how they got it balanced. Little wide by Todd. That's going to be troublesome off the exit. Now they've got to get through Casey Stoner, turn 3. Inside line is there for Bob Cohen, who's going to look for the line, but they are going to be able to hold pretty much flat to the throttle, and who brakes latest? It's Bob, who gets it done on the outside. A little tame from Todd on the defense, but I think he's prioritizing the finish.
Yeah, I believe so. It looked like Todd kind of backed out of that one, let Bob through after that minor mistake there in turn 2. But I noticed Cone wiggling a little bit there, back end having a hard time hooking up and putting the power down. So some of these drivers, Cone included, might be reaching the end of their tires. And this is kind of the danger zone where you have to decide, am I happy with this position, or do I want to push and move up one, knowing that it could lead to a trip through the kitty litter and potentially up to the barrier. And, we talked about Catalano. He is the man under the most pressure right now as the tire's fading on that BMW M4 GT3. He is the cork in the bottle from Hallstrom, from Cone, from Scholl. All those cars covered by just a couple seconds. Can Catalano hang on here?
The roar of the McLaren that David Plowman is piloting to try and get by Franco Scuri. This one, a 2-car scrap with just one on the back lap traffic. Big turn of cadence through turn 1 at Mick Doohan corner. His son Jack, of course, now a test driver over at Haas F1, but now the drive off the exit needed again. Very similar between the pair as Plowman looks to try and get himself up to 9th, and he doesn't want to make a meal of this, let alone a Plowman sandwich. I think this is what happened to Stefano Carmazzi. Just overcooked it through turn 11, and it is a helter-skelter ride over that bump.
Yeah, I have been over that bump in a Radical SR10 before knowing it was there, and I ended up in a low orbit and taking damage from landing on the grass right there. So you can't really see it, but that is definitely one of those traps here at Phillip Island. And take a look at Plowman. He is pressing Franco Scuri hard right here, and he can't just have his eyes ahead. He's got Steve O'Malley pressuring from behind as well, as we're coming down the stretch here. 4 minutes remaining, probably 3 laps, maybe 4, depending on where Payne is when time runs out. So things getting racy here down the stretch. There's Hallstrom versus Cone. Are we going to have the side-by-side entry into turn 1 at the end of this pit straight? Here we go.
Yeah, going to have to try and do it the long way around. Here is Bob. It is going to be a case of who's got the more power of it, the American-based Corvette, or is it going to be a little bit easier out there to defend by Peter Hallstrom at the moment in that Ferrari, which looks like it's doing the best job it can on an old-school Panos-style livery then from an Esperante at this stage that is on that Ferrari that's trying to make that progress. You've also got this going on right now, which is brilliant between Greg and Mike at this stage. Mike Walters here, this is for the top 15. Greg Gilman is holding the defense well in the Porsche and just managing to keep the clearance factor away at this point with 3 minutes left. But Hallstrom has fended off the tide. Now Mike Walters on the bottom of your screen trying to figure out a way as they head over to Miller Corner.
Yeah, all about gap management right now. You know that that driver, that lead 911, watching his relative, wants to keep that gap where it is and just hang on. About 3 minutes remaining, just a handful of laps left. Tires starting to fade here after a long, difficult battle in Australia, and it is crunch time. And this is the time of the race that is going to separate the wheat from the chaff. And, not to talk more about my age, it's already come up, but I remember Camel GT. He mentioned that livery when they actually handed out cigarettes to spectators at the track, and needless to say, that was a long time ago.
It was, and please be responsible out there when you're doing your next brand marketing promotion out there. And I'm sure we will not see the real-world equivalent of that in this modern day of people handing out vapes to people around the circuit. So at least for the moment, they'll be okay from that. 2:10 left on the clock right now, and Franco Scuri is through on David Plowman, but Plowman is still trying to find some way back to go and get it sorted. We focus there on what is Peter Hallstrom. There is Franco Scuri. This is for 9th place, and it's a little awkward right now because they've caught Todd Scholl, so suddenly it's not a case of being able to just defend the car behind. It's, can I attack the car in front and put someone between me? Franco Scuri stuck in Schrodinger's overtake.
Yeah, absolutely, and there is nothing Scurry would like better than to put Scholl between him and Plowman and maybe drive away here down the stretch. And, I mentioned it before, it's decision time. How hard do I want to press? There's only a minute left, and do I want to roll the dice right here and maybe end my race early, or do I want to pick up a position on the last couple of laps, get a couple more points, and be able to pat myself on the back for it after the checker?
Well, here's the panic that they're going to run into. John Payne's going to cross the line with about 15 seconds remaining on the clock. They'll get an extra lap after this to get themselves sorted. A minute remaining here, and they can't just stop the race wherever they are on track. They have to get back to the finish line. It is with added time remaining, so to speak, as they look to get themselves sorted. It's been a great day here for John Payne. He's pulled himself away from everyone else. Mike Grandy's given it a good go, but he's just been a bit short.
Yeah, absolutely. Payne really showing a lot of consistency and a lot of raw pace out here. Looks like his fast lap, actually Grandy's fast lap is right up just a couple of ticks, couple of hundredths off of Payne, but Payne's average much quicker, been able to be more consistent out there. And you recall Grandy had some traffic problems there when they hit a couple of back markers during that critical phase before the pit stops, where Grandy had an opportunity to take advantage of Payne struggling with traffic. Instead, it was him that got bit by the traffic bug, and that was one of the reasons that Payne got away there.
The gap's now down to 4.2 seconds. I wonder at this moment whether there are fuel concerns heading through this final lap of the race. How much lift and coast is there going to have to be from drivers late to get themselves over the line? John Payne has driven absolutely brilliantly, but further back, Todd Scholl has dropped places, and he's actually had to take an extra lap of fuel. Franco Scurry has to splash and dash. Fuel is a huge concern late here. Hallstrom and Cohn are going to fight this one out and give themselves everything they can do, but watch out for drivers coughing and choking heading towards the line, because I think the numbers have been slightly off from a couple out there at the moment. This could be as scary gets, as they will drop now outside of the top 15 heading on this final lap through. John Payne is only heading himself to MG now, still with a 4.6 second margin at the front. And I tell you what, you need a cold one after a drive like this, because this has been as easy as a Friday night drive can get. Car 2 dominant here, his 6th win from 7 starts. Only Ragnar Winslow has taken one off of him. John Payne is impervious to everyone else. He wins here at Phillip Island. Mike Grandy will take a strong second, and now Kevin Bergqvist will be that last car on the podium.
Yeah, I'll see if Bergqvist can hang on here. He was one of those cars that had a low 11-second fuel stop. Wouldn't be surprised to hear some sputtering Payne as well, only a low 11 seconds. And, it looks like Bergqvist has gotten through. But, a couple of these drivers cutting those fuel calculations a little bit short and biting a couple people. And, man, oh, man, that is frustrating. You never know when one of those extra laps is going to pop up. It popped up here. Didn't hurt Payne or Bergqvist with those short fills. Did hurt a couple of these other drivers.
A big top 10 for Remigio de Pasqua. Look at Greg Gilman, slow with no fuel, limping towards the line, and this is going to be agonizing. Look at them streaming by here. Roger Janssen is going to get by. So too is Franco Scurry. He'll pick one up over the line. Todd Scholl won't, but that's the fine level. You've got to manage the throttle pedal. You can't just plant it down with a brick and expect to make it home and dry. That's the sort of race they've got, and a little smash up over the line there between Respaldo and Tim Walters there as they make it through. Let's take a look then at classified results here from Phillip Island at round 8. John Payne at it again with a win, a near 5-second margin over Mike Grandy, with Kevin Bergqvist then finishing off in 3rd. Richard McClure had his blushes spared from what was a dramatic formation lap for him. 4th place it will be, with Roberto Catalano a gain of 15 spots to go get a top 5. Peter Hallstrom would finish ahead of Bob Cohen, with David Plowman 8th, Steve O'Malley then in 9th, ahead of Remigio de Pasqua, who would round out the top 10. Ian Wilson would be 11th, ahead of Mike Walters, with Richard Coulomb coming home in 13th. It then follows with Douglas Beasley and Roger Janssen. Franco Scurry and Todd Scholl both had to take a splash and dash to the end. Greg Gilman, running out of fuel coming over the line, will get 17th, as Gianni Raspaldo will be 19th, and Tim Walters would round out your top 20. 25 on the leading lap, which includes Jerry Kerr, David Bradley, Tom DeSelms, Jeff Browning, and Pierre Bennett. Then as the 25, Franz Josef Sturm, the first lap down, with Earl Setzer, James Shin, and Stefano Carmazzi. Frank Butler in 30th would be a lap down. It will be 2 for Michael Price, and then your 2 retirees being Kenneth Dummer at 7 laps down, and JC Hay then finding himself down at the bottom of the order, not quite finding what the doctor wanted. A lot of drivers to go and chat with here at the moment here with the 60 plus racing adventures, and we've got to go to the hot hand here, John Payne, who has now got, in your last 6 starts, John, 6 wins.
Well, I guess I'll take it. Yeah, it was a fun race. I'd been out of the country for a minute and came back in and practiced real hard, jumped in, and then Mike was on me heavy. I was trying to break the draft, and at some point that happened. And then in the pit stop, I got a little breathing room. So it was hairy up until the pit stop.
So you got the gap, you got the clearance that you needed, and this a circuit that often challenges people with braking distance and where you need to hit your marks, find that angle to really just slingshot yourself through the corner. Your car absolutely just, I would say, responded with each and every amount of wondrous ways to just get through and keep itself planted. How was that Porsche for you to drive, and what made the Porsche the car of choice for you?
Well, since I've used it all season, I'm just trying to not pick the the hot car at whatever track, and I like the consistency of knowing what the car will do. There were some slick spots. I got out a little second past Mike, and then going into that left-handed turn 2, I got out in the marbles, and I was a millimeter away from getting into the grass, and I was like, calm down, but don't push it too hard. But yeah, the car's predictable. I don't know that any car had a massive gain here. The field was pretty evenly divided, so I don't think there was a good car to have, but I like the Porsche.
From high speed here at Phillip Island, it's going to get a little bit more technical as we head over stateside to the WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Now, a circuit that has so much history around it, like Laguna Seca. Do you see this as a known quantity that's going to bring more drivers closer to you, or are you looking at that race in 7 days' time that's going to give you a lot of confidence into the final third of the season?
God, I think everybody has a lot of practice at Laguna Seca. I mean, that was an early track in iRacing, and everybody owns it, so it's going to be a big, full field, I'm sure. There are some straights there. I like the technical stuff. I like to try to break the draft and get away. I don't do well under pressure, so yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it is, but I don't know that it's too technical. I think it's more of a high-speed track. Of course, the downhill, that's something else. But, yeah, it could get hairy.
Well, we'll wish you the best of luck in 7 days' time. John Payne, 6 out of 6 in terms of what he's done recently, and a wonderful job that as well. JR Gregory has wandered down the virtual paddock. He's found the driver who's finished 2nd overall, that being Mike Grandy.
Yep, Mike, great drive today. You were within spitting distance of Payne there, and the critical point in the down the stretch seemed to be the pit stop. It looked like you were stationary about 2 seconds longer than Payne, and then when you hit traffic, I know that you were hoping for Payne to struggle with back markers. He got through clean, and you got held up a little bit, it looked like, and that was the difference. Your fast lap only a 10th or 2 off of Payne. So tell me how that race at Phillip Island unfolded from your seat.
Yeah, I think we started off really well. We really weren't far off of what John was turning. John doesn't make mistakes, so it's kind of hard to, make up time on him. But I was right with him until I think it was JC started flashing, and he went by him, and he disappeared before I got to him, and I had to get on the brakes. I didn't know where he was. And then I saw him flash across in front of me, so I don't know if he went off the track or what, but it did give me a 4X. After that, I stayed with John time-wise, and we were turning about the same. It just, the pit stop, I'm not sure what the deal was there. Unless that particular car fuels faster. I took half a gallon more than him, but that shouldn't have been 2 seconds. And towards the end, I was reeling him in a bit. He may have been backing off just a bit too, because I know there was a lap car that was starting to catch him. But overall, great race. Congrats to John, and congrats to the rest of the top 5. Kevin and Rick both ran a great race, and congratulations to them.
Yeah, and speaking of the top 5, Roberto as well wheeled that M4 up 15 positions to round out the top 5. So a good race turned in by him. So looks like we're heading stateside to Monterey Bay Area of California for Laguna Seca. And we spoke to John about that. He mentioned that it was a universally owned track. A lot of people had a lot of laps out here. So what are you expecting out of the field at Laguna Seca next week?
Well, of course, it depends on who shows up, but John's been the guy, so my money goes on him. I'll take second every time I can get it, but Laguna's it's a great track, and like he said, everybody's got laps on it, so it's going to be a matter of who keeps it on the track, I think.
Yeah, too right. Well, Mike, congratulations again on that P2, and congratulations to the field for a pretty clean race, pretty entertaining race, and I hope you will enjoy watching.
Thanks for the broadcast, and thanks to 60 Plus.
Well, there you have it. Mike Grandy there, who was chatting with us, second overall. Third today would be Kevin Bergquist, who is running close in the championship, having to give a lot of need to chase down someone like John and Mike. Kevin, today, third. It's a good result for you, but it looked like the top 2 just had the legs on you.
Yeah, good result, but yeah, they got away, got a little better in the traffic, and I just couldn't close the gap back up.
Couldn't manage to find it, but in terms of what you needed, the key for you was your scrap with Richard McClure. You managed to get that move just before the pit cycle, when it was going to look a little bit clearer that it was going to be a little bit more fuel limited than people were expecting. So were you expecting him to give you the place the way that he did on the main straight, or was that just a case of, the way that 60 Plus goes? Some drivers look to try and preserve a finish in the race rather than look to really scrap for it.
Yeah, actually, we were just talking about it in the waiting room, and I was kind of surprised when he moved over and sort of let me through, but I was certainly happy with it.
Now, Kevin, it's all about finding as much consistency as you can in a season like this. You know that it's 12 rounds in 12 weeks. You've got 2 drop rounds to go and help you out. But you've been consistently knocking on the door with seconds and thirds and trying to get as many points as you can down on the board. How do you look at this season then, knowing it's been very consistent and full of good points, but what do you think the difference is when you look at Laguna Seca and Miami, say, as the next 2 rounds of the championship, to go from these seconds and thirds to managing to taste some champagne on the top step?
Laguna's a hard one for me. I just never, I turn really good laps there, but seem to never put together a great race. But definitely looking forward to Miami, because I actually feel really good there, so we'll just keep plugging away at it.
Well, we will wish you the best of luck when it comes over to those next 2 circuits. Kevin Bergquist then, 3rd position overall in terms of running. JR, as far as it goes, this is all we'll be seeing here from the 60 Plus Racing Adventures in GT3 spec, but there will be a lot more amazing racing that 60 Plus will bring over the course of the season, as their broadcasts do dot around over the course of the racing week with us here at RaceSpotTV, as and when their championships come to view.
Yeah, too right. And again, another shout out to 60 Plus Racing, and go ahead and check out their website if you're advanced age such as myself and want to race with other people with your lack of reaction time, Jake. Go ahead and check out 60plusracing.com if it looks like these guys are having fun out here and you want to join them.
Well, I can't say I've got much of a better reaction time out there. I will say that much myself. But as far as it goes, Phillip Island has put on a wonderful spectacle. Do not go away with us with RaceSpotTV. You can head over to iRacing's YouTube channel as well, because in just 20 minutes' time, we'll be jumping in with Radical E-Cup action, which will be going on through. So please check out that with us here on RaceSpotTV. But the day in 60 plus terms, it's all about who can find a way to break down some invincible armor out there in front. He drives without mistake. It makes it almost impossible. You've got to be better than perfect. But no one is more perfect than John Payne. It's, of course, a 6th win of his season, and he's pretty much got the deck stacked exactly how he wants to. And he'll look at his next 2 rounds of the championship and say, well, a couple more wins, and the deal will be sealed.